In example 2, we are going to identify a function from an equation. So just like we were talking about in the first example, now we're going to use equations and decide which function it could be. So it says identify whether the function is linear, quadratic, exponential, or none of these, and explain how you know. If we take a look at letter A, we have y is equal to 3 raised to the x plus 2. Since we have an x inside our exponent, we know that this is an exponential function. So letter A we can say is exponential. Because the variable is in the exponent. In number 2, we have g of x equal to x plus 3 squared minus 8. Since we have this 2, and that's the biggest exponent that we have, and it will, once we multiply out x plus 3 times x plus 3, our x will take on an x squared, being the biggest exponent that we have. So for letter B, we can say that this is quadratic, because the biggest exponent is 2. And finally in letter C, we have f of x equal to 4 times x minus 9. This x is being raised to the first power, and that's the biggest exponent. So since the biggest exponent is a 1, we know that this is linear. So we could say linear because the biggest exponent is 1. Next, I'd like you to pause it and do the try this. Unpause it when you're ready to check your answers. If you did the try this correctly, number 1 you should have said was quadratic because the biggest exponent is a 2. Number 2 you should have said was none of these. It isn't exponential because there is no x in the exponent. And it isn't linear or quadratic because the biggest exponent is 3, not a 1 or a 2. And number 3 was exponential because the x is in the exponent. Remember, the biggest one that people have a hard time with is number 2 here, because when you say none, you have to say none and why it's not any of the 3. So make sure that you explain why it's not exponential, why it's not quadratic, and why it's not linear. If you have questions, let me know.